The truth behind the Red Sea crossing. The story of the Third Sea crossing indeed sparks a lot of debate, and it's easy to see why. The notion that an ocean could part on its own is quite extraordinary and runs counter to our current understanding of physics and geology. Firstly, there's no scientific law or theory that supports the idea of an ocean splitting apart by itself. The forces that govern Earth's physical processes, such as gravity and ocean currents, would work against such a scenario. For instance, gravity, which is a fundamental force, constantly pulls everything towards the Earth's center. It doesn't just turn off or become weaker in one spot. Considering the famous biblical story of the Red Sea parting, which is often cited in these discussions, if the Red Sea had split to create a path with towering walls of water, the forces involved would have been staggering. According to some estimates, the height of the water walls would need to be over 100 feet high to accommodate the mass of people and animals. Maintaining such a structure without it collapsing due to gravity would be a monumental challenge. Additionally, real-life phenomena like tidal waves or tsunamis could potentially cause temporary flooding, but they wouldn't create a stable, walkable path through the ocean. Research into similar events shows that while large waves or seismic activity can cause brief changes in water levels, they do not produce the miraculous conditions described. Some suggest that a divine or supernatural force could explain such an event, but this isn't something scientists can verify through empirical evidence. For instance, modern science relies on reproducible experiments and observable data, and divine intervention falls outside this scope. Until concrete evidence is found, the idea that an ocean could part and allow millions of people to walk through on dry ground remains a fascinating but controversial topic. Several archaeologists and scholars believe that the pharaoh who ruled during the Exodus may not have been trapped under the waters as described in the biblical account. Instead, they propose that he could have continued to reign for several more years after the Israelites were freed from Egyptian bondage. This hypothesis is based on historical records and inscriptions that suggest the pharaoh's reign might have extended beyond the Exodus event. For example, some researchers point to the lack of definitive archaeological evidence for the mass drowning of Pharaoh's army, which has led to debates about the historical accuracy of the biblical story. It is also suggested that the pharaoh's body might have been retrieved, or that he might have remained on land while his army was caught in the waters. To resolve these conflicting views, scientists and historians have undertaken extensive investigations, including underwater excavations and analysis of ancient texts. Their goal is to uncover more evidence about the Exodus and its historical context. However, this task is complicated by the vast differences between today's advanced technology and the ancient world. Finding the precise path through the ocean that has likely existed for over 4,000 years is a monumental challenge. For scientists studying the Gulf of Aqaba, pinpointing the exact location of the Red Sea crossing is crucial. Fortunately, ancient texts, such as those found in the Bible, offer remarkably detailed descriptions of the crossing site. These descriptions have narrowed the search to specific areas around Egypt, providing a valuable guide. According to these ancient accounts, the crossing must have occurred in a vast body of water with a minimum depth of 2,000 feet. This depth requirement is significant because it helps eliminate smaller bodies of water such as lakes and shallow rivers, which are not deep enough. The Gulf of Aqaba, located between the Sinai Peninsula and Saudi Arabia, fits this criterion perfectly with depths reaching over 1,800 feet. Early researchers initially focused on the Gulf of Suez, another potential crossing site, but this area proved to be an incorrect choice. The Gulf of Suez is considerably shallower, with depths averaging around 900 feet. The discrepancy between the depth required by the scriptures and the actual depth of the Gulf of Suez led to the realization that this was not the site of the crossing. The Gulf of Aqaba. After an exhaustive search, scientists stumbled upon a body of water that perfectly matched the biblical description of the crossing site. This remarkable location is the Gulf of Aqaba, a stretch of water renowned for its striking features. One of the most astonishing discoveries was the depth of the Gulf of Aqaba. It plunges to around 5,000 feet at its deepest point. For comparison, the Empire State Building is about 1,454 feet tall, including its antenna, so the Gulf's deepest sections are roughly 3 times the height of this iconic skyscraper. The enormity of this depth means that the walls of water described in the biblical account would have been staggeringly high, far surpassing any modern building. Imagine towering walls of water, thousands of feet high, flanking the Israelites as they made their perilous journey. These towering water walls would have been so immense that the Israelites, likely feeling small and insignificant, could scarcely comprehend their grandeur. Adding to the drama of the scene, the Gulf of Aqaba is strategically positioned along ancient trade routes and has always been a crucial area in regional history. It serves as a natural barrier between the Sinai Peninsula and the Arabian Peninsula, enhancing the strategic significance of the crossing. The crossing would have been further intensified by the presence of the Egyptian chariots in close pursuit. Chariots were the high-tech military vehicles of the time, providing a formidable threat. The Israelites' experience of being flanked by colossal walls of water while evading an advancing army must have been both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Bible recounts a dramatic episode where a powerful wind parted the ocean, creating a path through the sea. This extraordinary event, often referred to as the parting of the Red Sea, not only involved the splitting of the waters, but also subjected the people to intense, continuous gusts of wind for several hours. This wind, described in some accounts as being strong enough to dry the seabed, added an element of chaos to their escape. Imagine being part of a community that had grown accustomed to a certain level of comfort and stability in Egypt, with regular meals and a predictable routine, suddenly led into the unknown by a single leader, Moses, with no clear plan or guarantee of reaching the promised land. This situation must have been incredibly stressful. The people's fear and doubt were palpable, especially when they expressed a preference to remain in Egypt rather than face the harsh realities of the desert. Adding to the sense of hopelessness was the imminent threat from the Egyptian army. The Egyptians were known for their advanced chariot technology, which allowed them to travel faster than most other armies of the time. As the Israelites fled, the Egyptian chariots, capable of speeds up to 25 miles per hour, relentlessly pursued them. Despite walking for 10 days, the Israelites were still within range of being caught by their pursuers, heightening their desperation and fear. So, in their minds, they likely felt trapped with no escape from the Egyptian army's chariots. Shifting the focus and exploring a fascinating question, was the Gulf of Aqaba truly the location of the biblical crossing? And if so, how did scientists come to this conclusion? Depth alone isn't enough to pinpoint the exact crossing site. There could be other areas with similar depths. The Gulf of Aqaba, located at the northern tip of the Red Sea, has been the subject of intense investigation. Recent studies use advanced underwater technology, including sonar mapping and submersibles, to explore the region's depths and find clues. Some researchers have discovered ancient coral reefs and underwater land formations that match descriptions from historical texts. Additionally, artifacts such as chariot wheels and human remains have been uncovered, providing more context. By piecing together these findings with historical accounts, scientists are getting closer to understanding whether this was indeed the crossing point. The combination of archaeological evidence and advanced technology helps to provide a clearer picture, making this search not only a quest for historical truth, but also a thrilling journey into the past. Secrets of the Gulf of Aqaba. The Gulf of Aqaba, located in the northeastern corner of the Arabian Peninsula, is a striking geographical feature bordered by Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. This body of water holds significant historical and biblical interest due to its connections with ancient events described in the Book of Exodus. What makes the Gulf of Aqaba particularly intriguing is its role in the biblical narrative of the Red Sea crossing. The Gulf of Aqaba is a natural extension of the Red Sea, which has been a major maritime route for thousands of years. The biblical account of the Israelites' escape from Egypt describes them crossing a large body of water, which many scholars believe could be the Gulf of Aqaba. Mount Sinai, located on the opposite side of the Red Sea from the Gulf, is traditionally considered the site where Moses received the Ten Commandments. The proximity of the Gulf to Mount Sinai supports the theory that this was the location of the Red Sea crossing. This area has been a focal point of archaeological and historical research as scholars search for evidence to support the biblical narrative. Adding to the interest, the Gulf of Aqaba is surrounded by dramatic geological formations. One of these formations is the narrow gorge known as the Pahath, which translates to the opening of the mouth in Hebrew. This gorge is flanked by towering granite walls, creating a natural passage that aligns with the biblical description of a constricted path. When the Bible recounts the dramatic scene where the Israelites looked behind them and saw Pharaoh's army bearing down and a vast ocean ahead, it pinpoints a significant location. This spot aligns with the biblical account of God intervening to protect the Israelites. According to the story in the Book of Exodus, a pillar of cloud descended, casting the Egyptian army into deep darkness while the Israelites crossed the Red Sea. The gorge, known as Pi-Hahiroth, is pivotal in this narrative. This natural passageway leads to an area called Wadi Watir, which would have been a central point if this location were indeed the site of the Exodus. Remarkably, the geography of this region still supports this theory. The Red Sea's crossing is one of the most debated events in biblical history, and this particular gorge fits well with the physical description provided in ancient texts. However, the landscape has dramatically changed over the centuries. Modern infrastructure, including roads and buildings, now covers much of the area. The Gulf of Aqaba, once a remote and uncharted stretch of water, has become a bustling international shipping route. Today, it handles a substantial portion of global trade, including products from the Dead Sea. What's particularly fascinating is that beneath these busy waters, scientists have uncovered evidence that might substantiate the biblical account of the Red Sea crossing. Submerged artifacts and remains found in the Gulf of Aqaba hint at an ancient event that aligns with the biblical narrative. Now that they've successfully identified the location described in the Bible as the site of the crossing, and the details match up so well, they can confidently say that a significant milestone has been achieved. This alignment of evidence not only lends credibility to the biblical account, but also suggests that the story might contain a kernel of truth. For instance, archaeological findings in this area have revealed remnants of ancient infrastructure that could correspond to the biblical descriptions of the crossing event. Furthermore, ongoing research in the region known as Wadi Watir has been particularly revealing. During the rainy season, this area transforms into a vast expanse of water, sometimes so much that it floods the nearby modern road, showcasing the geographical changes over time. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. For centuries, the tale of the Red Sea crossing was relegated to the realm of myth and legend. Skeptics dismissed it as mere folklore, while believers held on to the story with unwavering faith. Then, in the scorching summer of 2024, everything changed. A team of intrepid marine archaeologists, led by Dr. Elena Martinez, had been exploring the seabed near the Sinai Peninsula. The expedition was driven by a tantalizing clue discovered in ancient manuscripts, a reference to chariots lost beneath the waves. Despite years of searching, they had yet to uncover anything remarkable. One sweltering afternoon, as the crew's submersible scanned the ocean floor, a series of unusual shapes appeared on the sonar. Hearts pounding with anticipation, they descended deeper. What they saw left them speechless. Rows of chariot wheels, perfectly preserved, glittering under layers of sediment. Among them lay human and horse bones, eerily silent testaments to a catastrophic event. Dr. Martinez and her team painstakingly excavated the site, uncovering hieroglyphs that spoke of a great exodus and a miraculous parting of the sea. The crowning discovery was a golden amulet inscribed with the name Moses. The world's media descended upon the site, and the story captivated millions. Scientists, historians, and theologians debated the findings, but one thing was undeniable. The evidence was overwhelming. The Red Sea crossing was no longer just a story. It was a historical event, etched into the ocean's depths. The discovery reignited discussions about the intersection of faith and science, bridging divides and sparking new explorations into the ancient past. As Dr. Martinez gazed at the shimmering artifacts, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. They had not just uncovered relics, they had found a piece of humanity's shared history. Could these findings finally unravel the mystery of how such a monumental event occurred?